Hi YouTubers, today we're going to be embroidering on a baby blanket. It's fleecy, so we're going to need a little bit of extra special care when we embroider on that to make sure that the stitches don't sink into the nap or the pile of the fur. So we're obviously going to need the comforter. We're going to do it in a really hot pink. We need the hoop, obviously. I'm going to do it in the 4x4. This is the hoop for my PR650 Brother machine. We've got cutaway stabiliser, and that's because the blanket's going to get washed time and time again with it being for a small baby, and this supports the stitches through wash, whereas tearaway would just disintegrate and the stitches may collapse. We've also got washaway, and this just lays over the top and supports the stitches on that pile, and then once it's finished we're going to need a water spritzer just to get away any excess stabiliser, and some scissors just for trimming. Okay, so let's hoop it up. Pause. Okay, so these are the few things we need just to hoop it to start off with. So let's just make a bit of space. So we take the top hoop off and we lay the cutaway stabiliser on the bottom hoop. Okay, and we're going to hoop this, we're not going to float it, we're going to hoop it. I need to take this tag off, because that we're going to be embroidering on this corner. Okay, so we're going to have the design across this corner opposite the bunny rabbit. So just as a general line up for now, because we're going to perfect it in just a minute. So make sure it's nice and flat, and pop your top hoop on the top. Now mine is really tight because the last project I had in was really thin, so I'm going to need to unscrew this screw and loosen that bottom hoop quite a lot to get my top hoop in. Just try it again. There we go, that fits nicely. Now I'm going to tighten it up again, just finger tight. I don't need to use any tools, but just, there we go. Now what I'm going to do is unhoop it and then hoop it again, because what happens if you tighten it whilst the project is in is sometimes you can get a bit of rucking, and look, I've missed it there, but sometimes you can get a bit of puckering and rucking on the back. So now we've got the hoop in the right size for all the layers that we want to hoop in, we can do it for the final time. Okay, so we're going to do it on this angle, so we need the point of the blanket in line with the centre of the hoop, which is the screw point there. And then the other side, I tend to eyeball it. I know a lot of people are very picky about measuring things and making sure everything's exactly square. I just tend to eyeball it. I put my thumbs on the edge of the hoop, make sure I've got equal distance there, make sure the rabbit's at the top, and everything's going to be fine. Okay, so now we can put the top hoop on over the top. It should be really firm, but not too firm. And when you push your finger across, there should be no running of the fabric. It shouldn't buckle up like it would if you were doing it there. Okay, so now that's all ready and good to go, we're going to go over to the machine. Okay, so we've come over to the machine, we've got our project hooped. Poor little Teddy's upside down. And what we do, when we put him on the machine, we need to make sure this is not going to get caught underneath. The amount of times I've caught that underneath and it's stitched is unbelievable. So okay, here we are at the machine. We've got our project hooped and we're going to put it on the machine. Okay, when we're putting it on the machine, make sure this is all out of the way, because the amount of times I've had that back like that and sewn across there is not worth remembering. So we need to make sure that's out of the way. So again, double check that this part of the project's all out of the way, the sides aren't tucked in, we're good. And then we need the water soluble stabiliser. It could be called Solvay, it could be WSS, it's got all sorts of names. Okay, so this is textured. I use the textured side down. One side is textured, like a bit waffly, the other side is smooth. I put the waffle side down and literally just lay it over the project what I need to remember is that I put my project in upside down, so I now need to turn my project around. So we need to rotate it 90 degrees and then another 90 degrees and close and edit end. And then we can go in to trace the design, make sure that it fits in, but I know for a fact that it does, so we won't do that here. Sewing. Okay, it's telling me to make sure I've got the right thread in. Just as a reminder from your last project, make sure you've changed the colours, so we close that. We double check that the needle it wants to use is needle 1. I've put my colour onto needle 1, so that's absolutely perfect. It's telling me here that it's a 17-minute stitch out and it's 8,828 stitches. That's based on the fact that it's working at 700 stitches per minute. We can increase that to a maximum of 1,000 and it'll go down to a 15-minute stitch out. I tend to like to work around the 800 stitches per minute mark. And I think we're ready to go. So we press the safety feature lock, that turns this button green, and go. So we'll watch it stitch for a little while and then we'll fast forward through. Okay, so as you saw there, my upper thread snapped, it shredded a little bit. But it's a good opportunity for me to tell you what happens when that happens, when your thread breaks. So I've re-threaded the machine, as you can see, and then we need to go back over to the display. So you get a message up there saying check your upper and your bobbin thread. So I've just clicked OK to that. So what I'm going to do is, because sometimes it takes a stitch or two for it to recognise that the thread's broken, so I'm going to click on this one, and this is being able to move stitches forward and backwards. And then that allows me to go back. I usually go back 10 stitches. Some machines only let you go back one stitch at a time or a colour at a time, which I'm not going to do, otherwise it's going to take me straight back to the beginning. So I've just gone back 10 stitches and close. And then I'm just going to, I might actually turn it down, the speed down as well slightly, because the numbers are quite fine. And it's not worth rushing it. So we unlock it and we're going to go again. Now the design's finished stitching out, we need to remove the hoop from the machine. So I just put my fingers on these two bits here and my thumbs underneath and lift it and then slide it towards me. Like that. Okay, just double check we've not sewn anything on the back. Yay! I always find that as a little triumph. Okay, so we're going to go back over to the table and take off the hooping and the stabiliser. Okay, so before I take it out of the hoop, I just check the design really carefully, because it's easier to cut these tiny little jump stitches that are too small for the machine to cut in the hoop while it's nice and taut than it is after you've hooped it. Sometimes it's not, but I find in this case it is. So I just get my tiny little scissors, they're the curved ones with the bending to help me get inside that hoop. So just put one side of the scissors in and snip that side, and then the other side sticks up and we can snip that. Okay, do the same with the numbers here. If the letters are too close together or the numbers are too close together, the machine does go, well, it's not worth doing a tie-off stitch and starting again, so it does tend to do a little jump. Okay, I'll double check that when it's out of the hoop and I've got my glasses on. Right, I'm just going to flip it over. You saw in one of my intro videos about how you can choose how long the tails are. This is the short tail, but it's still quite long, so I do tend to snip them off. You can see the knot just sitting on top of the project. Make sure you don't snip on that knot or the other side of it too close. You do need little tails, otherwise it's all going to unravel your project. Okay, I think that's all of them. Give it a little blow. Okay, now we're ready to unhoop. So we've got the outer hoop on the outside here, hence the name, and we just hold that down and pull the top hoop away. And then we can remove the bottom hoop. And then this is the water-soluble stabiliser, Solvay, WSS, whatever you want to call it. So I just rip off as much as I can, being super gentle, not to tear any stitches, but you shouldn't do. Anything you think might be a bit fragile, just hold down the embroidery with your finger or your nail or the stylus from your machine. Just give it a little bit of a tug. That will get off the majority of your Solvay or your stabiliser. Now I live in Spain, so I can't get many of my supplies locally. I buy a lot of my supplies online, which I think even a lot of people in the UK do. You people there in America are very, very lucky to have Joann's, Michael's, Hobby Lobby. I don't know whether you can get that in the Dollar Tree or whatever, but I think you're very lucky. I'm jealous. So right, there's the piece of Solvay. That's where our embroidery's been. I can use that again for another smaller project, so I'm not going to throw that away. I don't like to waste anything. So have a little look. Fluff up our fibres. Fantastic. In fact, I can't. Oh yeah, if you can zoom in, I don't know whether you can see, just inside the letters there, it's a bit shiny. You can see where some of the stabiliser's not quite come off. So what we do in this case is this is where we need to get the water gun. Give it a very gentle misting. And we need we call these cotton buds, but Americans call them Q-tips. So now it's slightly damp, just gently rub in the direction of the fibres and that will just literally melt away. If you've got a large area that is just going to take you too long to do this, you can actually pop it in the washing machine, and as far as I know it doesn't do any damage to your machine because it's literally tiny little areas. Okay, I think the recipient of this project is going to be quite happy. It's one of those things that even if they're not one of the kind of children to carry it around with them until they're, I don't know, 6, 8, 10, whatever, it'll go in a keepsake box or in a drawer and you'll just bring it out when they're older or even on a wedding day. And it's just one of those things that makes you go, oh. Remember those times when they were brand new babies straight home from hospital? And you'll never forget the birthday. So that's all the Solvay off. I'll pop it on the line to dry in a minute, but first of all we just need to take off the cutaway stabiliser from the back. And it is exactly what it says on the tin. Literally cut into it, cut close but not close enough that you're going to damage your stitches. So I tend to keep the project on the table and lift up the stabiliser and just snip into it. So I'm just going to finish trimming off here. You don't want to watch me do that. And then I'll pop it on the line and we'll see the finished product later. Okay, here's cheers. The bunny all finished. Thanks ever so much for watching.